guys, what is up? Welcome to the NFL Sunday Morning Show right here on the Hardcore Sports Network. I'm joined again by my guy James from the Steelers by the Lake podcast. How you doing, man? We got a lot to talk about.
Doing pretty good, man. Excited about it. Sorry I missed last week's show. Just had a animal emergency, we'll call it, that didn't turn out great. But beyond that, man, just love talking NFL draft, so I'm excited to be here.
Yep. Let's just get started. So let's talk about your Steelers, man. How do you think they did overall at the draft, during the draft?
I was really, really happy with their haul. Anybody that's been watching this show or my show on Steelers by the Lake for any amount of time, you know how big I was on Derek Harmon. He was one of my two goals. It was first round. I wanted either Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant. I didn't really care which two. Those were the two guys that seemed they were most likely to be available. Harmon was the only one available, and he's so similar to Cam Hayward, and he's exactly what that defense needs to really solidify the defensive front. When they played the Ravens in the first round of the playoffs last year, they gave up 299 rushing yards. You can't do that. You can't ever expect to be successful in the regular season, and especially in the playoffs, if you're giving up that kind of rushing performances. So they had to get better there, and they did. I really like the running back, too. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, a real hard runner, a very decisive guy on his decisions on where to go, what holes to hit. And he's really good at setting up his blockers for success to open up holes where there aren't any to begin with. So overall, very happy with the class. I think there's some guys that are going to contribute right away in a major way for them.
Good. And you're still waiting on this whole Watt thing. Like, what's going on with that, too? It's just like nothing yet? Nothing?
Nothing. Yeah, I guess no reason to rush the situation as far as TJ Watt. You're talking about the extension, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I wish they would have done it 2 months ago because they probably could have got him for about $5 million cheaper a year than they'll have to pay him now. But they got to pay somebody at this point because of how far below the cap they are. And you have to spend a certain amount every year over a 3-year period. So they need to spend some money. So either it's all going to go to TJ or they're going to have to extend some other guys or bring in somebody like, say, I don't know, a quarterback named Aaron Rodgers and pay him.
Just imagine if you guys – I can't see that happening. I really can't. What are the odds that Aaron Rodgers actually goes to the Steelers? I don't see it happening.
To me, all along, I was saying they weren't going to do it until after the draft. So I wasn't surprised that it didn't happen. And I think it made the most amount of sense, especially with trying to put smoke screens out there. You know, they brought in Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart and a couple other quarterbacks that were expected to be higher round picks. All seemed to just be a smoke screen. That was never the plan anyway, because those guys were all available in the first round, and they just chose not to go that direction. So I think the whole reason they chose not to go that direction is because it's kind of an unwritten agreement that's already agreed upon. And he just doesn't want to go to any of these mini camps. That's what he's been doing for the last few years. He doesn't want to go to mini camps and training camps. And I get it, man. It's hot out there, or this time of year it's still cold.
Yeah.
But, I get it. But he does need to show up at some point in time if he's going to be the plan. Otherwise, roll with Mason, and I'm okay with it.
I like Mason Rudolph for you guys because you already have the weapons. You got Pickens, who still rumored to be traded, right? Is Pickens still rumored to be traded?
It quieted down now, but apparently the Cowboys tried to trade for him on draft day. At what point in time during the weekend, I don't know. What compensation they were trying to get, I don't know that either. But to me, if you're Pittsburgh, there's no reason you would have ever moved on for him for anything less than a second-round pick. Because if you lose him in free agency after this upcoming season, he's likely to get paid enough that you're going to get a third-round compensatory pick in return for losing him anyway. So why would you give him up for anything less than a 2?
Wow. Thank God he did not go to Dallas. I was just going to say that. Thank God. So you still got Pickens, you still got DK Metcalf, and you still got Wilson. Like, you have a really good wide receiver core there for Mason Rudolph, which I like.
and better than he's probably ever had to work with. Definitely better than he's had to work with at Pittsburgh. And low key, Calvin Austin the third really came on last year and really turned into a nice third option for them. So if that wasn't enough for him, they brought in Robert Woods for a little extra insurance policy on the room. And I like what they have in weapons. It should be a good offense, and if they get Aaron Rodgers, it should be a little bit better. But I really don't think it's a massive difference between Mason Rudolph and Aaron Rodgers at this point in Rodgers' career.
Yeah, I was gonna say not that much of an improvement at all. It really is not. How old is Rodgers? How old is Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, he's got to be like 42 or something by now, right?
I'll look it up. I'm just curious right now.
I know he's north of 40. Exactly what age, I'm not sure, but I want to say it's
41. 41. Yeah.
It is.
So, yeah, that's the time when he's supposed to hang up the cleats. That is the time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, if he can't put some good tape out there, there's no point in playing anymore.
Right. So let's actually go to the NFC side of the ball and talk about George Kittle, who actually got extended. And I still got a couple of words about that. How do you feel about George Kittle getting extended for the Niners?
I mean, Kittle in his heyday was one of the best tight ends in the league, right? But it seems like he's kind of a little bit removed from that, in my opinion. I don't think he's really playing at that level anymore. So a 4-year extension is pretty impressive. What's he? He's got to be a good 34 or 35 by now, right?
Yeah. It's only him, McCaffrey, and you got Ayuk. Samuel is gone. He got traded to Commanders, so he is their number one option. So you got a 4-year contract extension worth $76.4 million. Like, he is arguably up there with the tight ends. He's arguably like what, top 3, top 5 tight end in his league right now.
Ooh.
So for me, it comes down to Brock Purdy, right? They still got to give him 45 to 50 mil. And I'm like, he's not worth that much. Brock Purdy is not worth that much at all. So I'm just sitting here like, what has the Niners done? Because a couple years ago, they were the best team in the league. They went to the Super Bowl. Then it just had like drama and players leaving, getting traded or wanted out. It's just like, if I'm a 49ers fan, I'll be kind of nervous with this whole Brock Purdy thing. You agree?
I feel like they kind of have him backed in a corner and he doesn't really have any options. Right. But that's also not a great place to be with the guy that's supposed to be your franchise quarterback. You should be able to get that deal done. So there must be, in my opinion, a big difference in expected value. I think Purdy thinks he's worth a lot more than the Niners are offering him, is my guess on the situation. But yeah, they let so many guys go this offseason. It just kind of blew my mind, to be honest with you.
And Vic brings up a good point. Shout out to you, Vic. Crazy part, the 49ers did not even draft a wide receiver. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, but they do have some guys on the squad, like Ricky Pearsall's returning. He was really good last year. Juwan Jennings, he's really good. But traded away Debo. And then what's going on with Ayuk? Isn't he still injured or going to miss some time?
I think so. Vic, if you can let us know if you have any opinions on Brandon Ayuk. I think he's still injured. So, yeah, your offense is going through McCaffrey, who's never made it for the full season. And then you have George Kittle, who's arguably a top 3 tight end. But I'm just like, they're relying on their defense now. I appreciate that, Vic. Yeah, appreciate that. Let us know about this whole thing with Ayuk. So, Niners are going to have a tough schedule again. I got to look up who they're playing because I'm not liking who they got in this offseason. I'm not liking it. It's good for me as an Eagles fan, but I'm just like outside looking in. It's like, the Niners schedule. All right, didn't even do the schedule yet.
No, we're gonna have that soon. But you should be able to find the opponents at least. So you'll have opponents. That, not the exact order. But even in the draft, they focused in the first 2 rounds, really actually the first 4 rounds on almost exclusively defense. Going edge rusher in the first round, defensive tackle in the second, third round, they went corner and linebacker. I mean, they didn't give the offense any help. And it seemed like that's where they lost most of their guys. They grabbed a couple late guys, a wide receiver in the 4th and one in the 7th, but you don't really expect guys like that to make a big impact.
Yeah, so they got Seattle, the Rams, the Cardinals, obviously. They got the Falcons, Panthers, Jaguars, Titans, and Bears. And then away, they got the Saints, Buccaneers, Texans, who are looking pretty good right now on paper. The Colts, the Giants, and the Browns. And they also got the Bears, who are looking really good right now as well. Like, don't sleep on the Bears, guys. Do not sleep on the Bears. I think they had a really good offseason. We're gonna rank the NFL draft for each team in a little bit. But yeah, this is the Niners schedule right now. Not as tough as I thought it was gonna be, but it's still there. I could see them getting like 8 wins or 9. I could definitely see that for them.
Yeah, and a couple of those away games, they're going to make it a lot more difficult for them. Going to Tampa, going to Houston, those are teams that could be up or down, and going to their home stadiums could be a lot tougher.
Oh, so Vic is seeing Brandon Ayuk is not hurt. So
that's helpful. So they've got a top 3 wide receiver still with Ayuk and Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. So
not a bad wide receiving core.
No,
not bad at all. I like that for them. I like that. Yeah. So, guys, we're actually we used to do this a lot last season with the tier list. I know you probably remember some of that when we did this. So let's do it for the draft. I've never done it for the draft before. So we're going to rank them, each team, S being superior, A, B, C, or D or below. So let me get rid of this thing. I hate this thing. Why is this ad thing always here? Of course I got a pop-up. You know what? Screw it. The Eagles, where do you think they should go?
All right, let me take a look. I'm going to cheat and pull each one of these classes up because I don't have them all memorized.
Go for it. Go for it. That's fine.
That's I remember thinking that I really liked this Eagles class. So, yeah, Campbell was one heck of a pick. Makubo never should have been there that late in the second. The Eagles class I really like. So, to me, what do we have? A, B, C, D, or below? What's that above A?
S. So it's like superior, the best thing possible. So, yeah, we got A, B, we got superior, A, B, C, and a D or below.
Okay. So. I'm going to give this draft class an A. I really liked it. I thought they got great value on a lot of their picks and really got some excellent depth for places that maybe you lost some guys in free agency or retirement recently. So I'll go A for the Eagles for me.
So a lot of people have been asking me what grades have I been, or what grade should I give them for the Eagles draft? I've been going like B plus around there, just getting the stuff that they needed to fill in. Like the first 5 picks were defense. The first 5 picks were defense. Did not make any splashes, by the way. We did not make any big-time moves like trading for A.J. Brown or getting DeAndre Swift or even getting Saquon Barkley, that kind of move. But we just did what we needed to do. A nice, calm, quiet draft, did what they needed to do. So I'm going to agree. I'm going to go with an A right here. And then the Packers here for Green Bay. They did get a good wide receiver for their first time in 25 years to draft a wide receiver in the first round. So getting Jordan Love some help. So for that, I would give that a B. How do you feel about Green Bay
Packers? Yeah, I'm similar with you on that. I think Matthew Golden was a good pick for them. But as I'm looking at the rest of their draft class, Anthony Belton, Savion Williams, Barron Sorrell, nothing splashes the rest of the way down. It also doesn't scream overreach. So I think a B is a great move for them. I think that's an adequate spot.
All right. And then the Ravens, a lot of people say they won the draft because they went a lot of defense. They got Malachi Starks next to Kyle Hamilton. My God, that secondary alone is going to be scary for the future. Yeah. So how do you feel about the Ravens? And then I'll answer right after.
I hate it because it's so good. Uh, and, and this is almost always the case with the Ravens. As much as they're a heated rival of my beloved Steelers, they draft really smart. They draft really well. They play the board. There's always somebody that falls down to them that shouldn't be available. Somehow, not a single safety gets drafted before them, and now they get to pair with Hamilton, Malachi Starks. It just seems a little unfair. But one heck of a draft class. I'd be between the S and the A for them. I thought they really nailed it.
I'm gonna go with an S here. I really feel like they just got the best draft for the buck, and I'm scared of the Ravens. I am scared of the Ravens. Thank God we're not playing them at all. I feel bad for you. You play them twice a year.
Yeah, and we better get better on defense, but I think we got the right guys to do it now.
Yeah, I'm really confident in your team as well. The Buccaneers, man. Let me look up the Buccaneers draft class because I honestly forgot who they drafted here.
They went Emeka Ibuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State, in the first round.
Boo.
Second round, Benjamin Morrison, corner from Notre Dame. Jacob Parrish, corner in the third round. David Walker, an edge in the fourth. Elijah Roberts, another edge in the fifth. Very, very vanilla draft to me. Yeah. I would think a C for them.
I was gonna give it a C too. I just looked at it. Like nothing really stands out for me. Yeah. So I'm gonna give this a C. And then next up we got the Washington Commanders. I feel like this one is. Do you know anything about the Commanders draft class?
Well, I'm looking at it here, and they got Josh Connerly in the first round, which they desperately needed help on the offensive line. So this is a new starting offensive tackle for them. That's great value where they were picking at 29th in the first round. In the second round, they got Trey Amos, who a lot of people had as a late first round corner to early second. So to get him at the end of the second, again, great value there. They didn't have a lot of picks. So you kind of almost have to roll off of that because they had a fourth, a sixth, and a seventh after that. But I think that they really did a great job with those first two, and I think a B would be a pretty adequate score for them.
All right. We're going to go with a B here for the Commanders. As long as they're below my Eagles, I'm all good. I am all good. And for the Houston Texans, they made a lot of trades, I feel like, in this draft, didn't they? A lot of depth. A lot of draft pick trades to stock up for the future. The Texans are still in that rebuild mode. They made some necessary draft picks. So for me, I'm thinking like an A, like A, B. How do you feel about that?
I think you're right. I think it should be somewhere in between there. And I like it more because of the movement and what they acquired for future years than the actual picks. I don't think they did a bad job. Jaden Higgins is their first pick, who they picked as the second pick overall in the second round, but you trade completely out of the first. You better get some good assets for it. And I'm looking at their class here. Every single position where they picked was a trade. They didn't stay in a natural position once. So trading up, trading down, whatever it may be, they acquired a lot of future assets. And I think they got some good value. So I'd be comfortable in that range there with them.
Yeah, I'm going to give an A. I really like what they did there. The Cowboys, I'm just going to throw that there. I'm just going to throw that there. But realistically, how do you feel the Cowboys did?
It looks like their class was pretty good. Getting Tyler Booker, one of the best guards in the class at number 12 overall. Typically, that's a little high for a guard. He's like a power dude, not the greatest move skills in the world. So I feel like if you run some stunts and twists by him, you might be able to cross his face. Donovan Izaraku, some people had him as a first-round edge guy, and then Siobhan Ravel, a lot of people had him as like a late one, early two corners. So it looks like a pretty solid draft class. I think a B is probably not a bad move for him.
That's the highest I'll go. That's the highest I'll go. I'm not going any higher. All right. Now we got the New York Jets. We got the New York Jets here. I feel Nothing. Did something stand out for them? I'm really drawing a blank on the Jets one.
Yeah, that's a bad sign when when you're drawing a blank. Offensive tackle Armand Membu was their first pick in the first round there, which that's a great pick. Jason Taylor's son, Mason Taylor, in the second round for tight end. Azarie Thomas, the corner that was supposed to be a late one, early two, they nabbed in the third round. So there's some good value with some of these picks here.
Yep. This
Yeah,
is the draft class for them. So, what grade would you give the Jets here?
I think that Membu is a really important selection for them because
Yeah.
that offensive line just needed help in the worst way, and a lot of people had him as the number one tackle. So great move there. Mason Taylor, I could give or take. I don't really care as much as R.E.A. Thomas. I thought was great value. So I would probably give him a B. I think it's a pretty decent class for them.
That's fair. The Raiders, just for getting Genty, I'd give him an A.
I mean, Genty's a stud, so tough to argue with that. But beyond that, I'm looking into this a little more here. Jack Betch was the wide receiver they took in the second round. I really like Jack. Excellent possession guy, great contested catch yards after contact and blocking ability. Darian Porter, the corner they got in the third, most folks had him as a second rounder. So some great value. And then Charles Grant was a offensive tackle that I had mocked to the Steelers as a mid-round guy. They get him in the third there. This is a really nice class. So it's got to be at least an A for me on that.
Yep. I'm going to give them an A. Let's just see how Tom Brady, because Tom Brady's got a lot of say in that front office now.
Yeah.
They got Genty. I forget who their quarterback is.
That's a bad sign.
Oh, God. Who is their quarterback?
Well, they moved on from Carr.
Oh, right. It's Geno Smith.
Geno,
right?
that's right. They traded for
Yeah,
Geno.
it's Geno Smith because they got Pete Carroll as their head coach.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, another A. Can we get another S here? I want to get an S to compete with the Ravens here. The Panthers, I mean, it is what it is. It's the Panthers. I don't really see it. You see them having a good draft?
No, I think this is a very average draft in the first time in a while that I'm willing to say it's probably a C. I like Teteroa McMillan, probably the number one wideout in the class, but I think a lot of these guys were just kind of like appropriate value or maybe even a little bit over drafting. So, yeah, I'd be very comfortable with the C with the Panthers.
I'm good with that. The Falcons. Let me take a look at theirs too. I'm not one of those guys who remembers every single draft pick.
That's impossible.
The NBA is different. I could definitely do that because there's only 2 rounds.
Yeah.
All right. So here's actually the Falcons draft here. So let me show more. They only have 5 picks.
Yeah, because that trade up to get James Pierce. Okay. To the first, looks like they probably gave up their 5th and 6th in order to do so. Probably some future assets too. Because that doesn't happen cheap or easy. If they land on Walker and Pierce, it's going to look like an amazing draft class for them. I thought Watts was going to go in the 2nd round, so I was surprised to see him all the way down in the 3rd. But I think moving up for Pierce wasn't necessary. There was a few other guys available at the time that a lot of folks had rated as higher edge prospects than Pierce. So you gave up a ton to do that, but I think the Watts pick kind of makes up for it. I'd probably be comfortable with a B for their class.
That's fair. Doing what they need to do. Chargers, Harbaugh. I'm excited to see what you give the Chargers because I'm a Michigan fan. So,
I mean, you start off with Omari and Hampton, and I like that pick. Najee Harris isn't going to like that pick too much,
right?
But I think that was a pretty good one. Beyond that, in the class, I'm looking at a pretty vanilla-looking class. Trey Harris, a wide receiver in the 2nd, Jamari Caldwell in the 3rd, Kyle Kennard, an edge in the 4th. Yeah, nothing jumps out at me on this class at all. So I think their best pick by far is going to be the running back in the 1st round, and then a very vanilla class after that. So I'd be in that B to C category for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Now let me ask you this. It's about Justin Herbert. How do you
Uh-huh.
feel about him as a quarterback? How do you feel
I
about
like him.
Herbert?
I
Yeah.
like Herbert, but he's also torched Pittsburgh, so it makes it a little bit more tough for me to hate him. I want to say the first time he played Pittsburgh, he was a rookie and he ran for like 90 yards scrambling against us and just absolutely lit up our secondary. So he's got ability. I think it's just tough for quarterbacks when they come in. It's easier to be successful, I feel, in your rookie season than it is your sophomore or even junior season. Because once guys get tape on you, they start seeing some tendencies that they didn't know about, and then they're able to shut you down a little bit more. And I think that's why he was so incredible his rookie season, and has kind of tailed off a little bit after. I don't think his talent is lesser because he hasn't been as lightning the last few years. No pun intended with the Chargers symbol there, but I do believe that he's better than he's been the last couple years.
To me, it comes down to the playoffs, right? Because
Yeah.
he's always the guy that throws pick after pick after pick after pick. I forget how many times he threw a pick in the playoffs this past season. So he just can't get it done in the playoffs, and that's where it matters to me the most. I mean, look at Jalen Hurts, right? He
Yeah.
may not throw all those numbers, but whenever the time comes, he performs. So,
And is this a thing with him, or is this a thing with the uniform? Because that was Philip Rivers too, right? He either
yes.
couldn't make it to the playoffs, or when he did, it was one and done.
Yep.
So you have to wonder if there's some kind of jinx going on that football team there.
And then, all right, where'd you put the Chargers? A, B?
I was in the B to C category, and I was going to let you push it one way or another.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you think they had a
Yeah.
better draft than the Panthers?
Yeah.
Better than the Bucks?
Yeah, I think better than the Bucks too.
Better than the Falcons?
I like the Falcons class a little better, so it's appropriate.
So
I'm
let's stick
there.
with like here,
All
beginning
right.
to C. That's fair. All right, the Dolphins. Where's Big C when you need him, man? Come on.
He might
Come
not
on.
be here, but I'll brag on his team for him. I thought they really did an excellent job here. I have not made it any kind of secret how much I liked Kenneth Grant in this pre-draft process. You loved him in college. I loved watching his tape and thinking hopefully he could be a Steeler one day. He goes to the Dolphins, and it had to absolutely make Big C's day when that happened. So I think that was a tremendous pick. And then they followed up with Jordan Phillips in the fifth, who's a great run-stopping nose tackle. They pick up a guard in the second, who was a great value. I think they did a real nice job in this class, and I think it's easily an A.
All right, we're going to go with an A here. I'm just going to give it an A because they went with Kenneth Grant. So I'm like, I got to ride with my guys, man. I got to ride with my guys. So, okay. The Browns have the most difficult draft to grade. It's like, give me your opinion on the Browns draft because I got to hear this from you.
I loved it because I thought there was a lot of overdrafting and moving away from elite talent. So as someone who that is, again, a division rival, if they do well in the draft, that's bad news for you. And I thought moving away from Travis Hunter was a ridiculous mistake. The best thing that they did in that was acquiring the future assets of an additional first-round pick next year. Mason Graham's tape is incredible. The what he did in college was just absolutely incredible. But if he is successful in the NFL, it's going to be an extreme outlier based off of size, arm length, athleticism testing, all of these things. When he showed up to the combine with short arms and benched poorly and didn't run and was 20 pounds lighter than his listed weight, you had to question how much was he even preparing for the draft process. I can damn near put up 20 reps on the bench. So for him to only put up 20 reps as a 300-pound man with short arms is just not very impressive. But you look at his tape, and he's an unstoppable force on the field. So how much is that going to translate to the pros? Now you're not going to have short-armed offensive linemen to go against in the NFL because everybody's got good length in the NFL. It's rare that guys in the NFL have arms shorter than a 32-inch length, which is exactly where he's at. So I think his success in the NFL will be more of an outliner than it will be a normalcy if he is good. I think he's still going to splash. He's a penetration style guy who's very quick off the first step. But when it comes to getting double teamed and holding up against the run, I think it's going to be tough for him.
Yeah.
Judkins, I thought Judkins was a really good pick. I like that one. Even Gabriel later on. But Schlesinger, I thought, was a slight overdraft. Fannin, I thought, was an overdraft. And then giving up the rest of their draft class for Shedeur Sanders when the entire NFL said no way. Man, I'm a C on the Browns draft class.
So Vic went with the B, and he's a Steelers fan. All right, I got to pick between C and a B.
You do. You're determining it.
Okay. Did they have a better draft than the Chargers? If not, then
we'll go Mason Graham over their running back. Yeah, I like him better.
We're gonna put him in the beginning of C.
I think that's fair.
Yep. Okay. Oh, Big C just DM'd me. He went. My bad. Fell back asleep. Come on, bro. I'm like.
Looks like we've got your New England Patriots next on the list here.
Yeah.
I got to peek and see what we've got there. Oh, okay.
Let's see what. All right, Vic agrees with that C. So where should we go with the Patriots?
They got that left tackle, Will Campbell, in the first round. They needed that in the worst way. Looking through the draft class, Craig Woodson was a safety I really liked. Josh Farmer was a defensive lineman I really liked. So it looks to me like a pretty solid draft class. Travion Henderson from Ohio State, that's a really good running back in the second round. So I think this should be probably between A and B on the class in total. I think this is a real nice class for them.
Better than the Packers?
Probably, yeah.
Better than the Dolphins?
No, I like the Dolphins better.
So we'll go in the beginning of B.
Okay.
We'll go there. And I hate doing that because of Ohio State. Lions. The Detroit Lions.
Detroit. I feel like, I don't even remember the specific guys, but I feel like I liked their class.
Yeah. B above the Packers. Okay.
Well,
we're all on the same page.
You're going to hate seeing this. Their number one pick was an Ohio State defensive tackle, Tyleek Williams.
I know.
Which many thought was the best run stopper in this entire class. So you got to at least give him credit on that. I question going nose tackle in the first round that isn't a pass rusher.
Yeah.
Value is a little goofy there for me, but Tate Ratledge, the guard in the second round, was a nice pick. They traded all kinds of assets to get Isaac Tesla, the wide receiver, big, strong, very physical blocker. So they're really putting a lot in that basket. And then Miles Frazier, another guard in the fifth round. So looks like Detroit really shored up offensive and defensive line and got themselves a running mate for Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's a nice class.
All right. So it sounds like you're giving him an A?
A or B. I think it would be kind of in between the two.
So better than the Dolphins?
I'm not as good as the Dolphins, but better than the Patriots. So I'm good with either line.
Okay, so we'll go there. We'll give them an A because they had a very good year last year despite the injuries. So I'm just going to give them an A just to be fair.
I think that's
the Titans here, the first overall pick. I feel like they get an A just for getting Cam Ward.
They didn't screw it up and trade away from elite talent.
Right.
That's a really important thing. It looks like they moved up and down like crazy too. I'm seeing the trade symbols next to almost every single pick. So Kevin Winston, the safety, and the third Alec Ayumanor, a lot of people had him as as a second-round wide receiver. They get him in the 4th.
Yeah.
So that's some really nice value there. I think an A is appropriate for this draft class.
Behind the Lions?
Yeah, let's go behind the Lions.
Gotcha. The Giants are.
Uh-oh.
It's not because I'm a Eagles fan. It has nothing to do with that. The fact they got Abdul Carter, that's perfect.
Yep.
But the Jackson Dart thing over Shador Sanders, it just got me thinking. I don't know how I feel about that. They went with Dart over Shador. You like that? Or for me, I like it.
On this show, I was an outliner because I know that, Big C really liked Shador. Our buddies from the Giants crew, they all really loved Shador. I didn't see it with Shador. And it was because the arm strength wasn't there. The size was lesser than you're hoping for. The agility and athleticism was a little bit lesser than you're hoping for if you don't have the size and throwing power. So I didn't see that key trait. The biggest trait for me was his accuracy. And the last time a first-round quarterback only had accuracy as his dominant trait, that was a guy named Kenny Pickett. That didn't work out too well. So I think the NFL learned from those mistakes, but then it got amplified because the pre-draft process, it sounded like he didn't take things seriously. It sounded like there was a lot of really unnecessary things with, slandering teammates. And I'm not going to do that because don't you know who my dad is? And his dad saying, I'm not going to let him go to this team and that team. And just too much drama for most teams to even want anything to do with. So I understand Jackson Dart, a bigger guy and a more powerful arm. So I get it. I get it completely on why they went that direction. I really like this class. Abdul Carter's a great pick. Jackson Dart, we'll see if he works out or not. But you had to trade up for him because that was when those teams that didn't take a quarterback in the first round were going to start looking to come back up. So it was either that or he might not be there in the second round. I loved Darius Alexander. They nail him in the 3rd round. Cam Scatabo might be the hardest running back in this entire class. They get him in the 4th. It's a real nice class for me. It's definitely an A.
All right. Is it better than the Titans?
You don't want to ask the question, do you?
What?
Is it better than the Eagles?
You're actually going that far?
No, I'm just being a heel, man.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I respect that. I respect that.
I would put them in front of the Raiders and behind the Texans, though. I think this is a fantastic for them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they did a real nice job with lots of great value and really good talent, too.
Wow. Okay. I'm still like, it's like they could have had Shador. If they had Shador, I know you're not a big fan of Shador. Would you still have him as an A if they got Shador instead of Jackson Dart? Yeah.
If they took him in the 1st round, then none of us would even know there was any drama with Shador, right?
Yeah.
So it would probably skew all of our opinions as to whether or not that was a good value. But, that's the one of when I looked at their top 5 picks, that was the one I was least impressed with anyway, was the quarterback selection. I think it was a good move to go up and get your guy rather than sit and wait and hope. But I liked their 1st round, 3rd round, 4th round. I thought they really nailed all those picks.
Yeah. All right. The Denver Broncos. I don't know about too much about this one.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. They took Jahdae Brown in the 1st corner, right? Jahdae Barron, I should say. Jahdae was a super athletic corner who had short arms, and that's a difficult thing for me to get behind. It was less than 30-inch length. It was like 29 and change, and you're hoping to see 32-inch or longer on a corner. So he might have to play slot. That's tough to value that in the 1st round. R.J. Harvey, the running back in the 2nd round, a real good scat running back. Probably not your every down guy. Pat Bryant, the wide receiver in the 3rd round, I never even really heard anything about him. I did like Savion Jones, the edge they took in the 3rd round, but I thought he was going to be more of a 5th or 6th round guy. So I'm not big on this class. I could easily put it in the C category.
All right. Better than the Panthers?
I think so.
Better than the Bucks?
that's about where you're in the right spot. Yeah, either there or in front of the Bucks, I think. Take your pick.
I like Denver more than Tampa Bay.
All right.
So, Vikings. The Vikings, man, they got Sam Howell. They traded for Sam Howell. They got him back. It's so funny. They started out with Sam Howell. Then he left, went to Seattle, and then they traded him back to Minnesota. How do you feel about the Vikings?
Funny how that comes full circle like that.
I love it. And I love it because it's just like Madden-like. It's like in Madden. I don't like you how you played. You're going back to your original team.
You're not going to want to hear the first round pick here. This is Donovan Jackson, the guard from Ohio State in the first round. But that was an important thing for them. They needed to solidify the offensive line. It was not that good last year. Beyond that, the rest of the class does not jump out at me at all. In fact, there's only 4 more selections, a third, a fifth, and 2 sixes. So I think that the first round pick was very good for them, and I would put them a B to C. It's tough to negatively mark them for 5th and 6th round picks that don't impress. Nobody has 5th and 6th round picks that impress, really. So I think they had to hit that first round pick, and getting a new starting guard is a good move. So I think a B is probably safe for them.
All right, better than the Falcons?
I'd put them right at the end of the class just because they didn't really have much to do there, There's very few picks.
Come on, guys. We still got Baltimore just here alone. They need somebody. All right, now we got the 49ers. Like what Vic said, they didn't even draft a wide receiver in the first round. So they didn't really go for one of those. So how do you feel about the Niners? I'm going to pull up their draft class.
So they definitely addressed some needs, replacing Joey Bosa in the first round with Michael Williams. In the second round, they replaced Javon Hargrave with Alfred Collins. So they definitely addressed some stuff right out of the gate with some pretty good quality talent. Nick Martin will be a new middle linebacker for them, Upton Stout and nickel corner. And so there's some good quality players here. I'd be comfortable with a B for the Niners.
All right. Let me go back to here. So this, what was that, a B?
Yeah, I like it for a B.
All right. Better than the Vikings?
No, I think put them in front of the Falcons.
Okay.
Or your Falcons, I should say.
Yeah. All right. We got the Rams now. The Rams. Kind of interesting with their draft class. I kind of like theirs a little bit. LOL, so many Ohio State players get picked in the draft. Don't remind me. Don't remind me, Vic.
Or me, come on.
I forgot about that, yeah.
We both have a hatred for Ohio State.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So Terrence Ferguson was their first pick, but that's in the second round. They didn't even pick in the first round. Traded out of it. So that's a good move, tight end. What was your favorite thing about this class?
The fact that they traded out of the first round to get more. Not a lot of teams did that this year, right?
Yeah, I think only 2, really.
Yeah. Rand draft picks to 2025. Come on. Terrence Ferguson, you said in second. They got a Michigan. They did get a Michigan, Ohio Stewart. So for that, I'm going to give them like an A. But let's see. They got a running back. I really like this running back. Jaquez Hunter. Yeah. I really liked him a lot. I think that would be a good piece along with their wide receivers. Good one. Ty Hamilton out of Ohio State. Another one. How many did they take? How many did they take?
Oh, it seems like they had at least a dozen guys get drafted.
My God. Well, yeah, they were the national champions, so that does make sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happened to Michigan a couple years ago, too, when they won. So
I like that one. They also have a Chris Paul Jr. I forgot that there was a Chris Paul in the draft. There also was a Kobe Bryant in the draft too, right?
There was, a corner.
Where did he go?
I don't recall, to be honest with you, but I think he was a later round pick, like
Yeah,
a
he was
sixth,
late.
seventh. Yeah.
All right, so where do you think the Rams will go?
I think you like the class more than me, so I'm going to let you grade this one.
More than the Titans, you think? Or is it like,
I think if we're going A with them, put them behind the Titans. I think that's an appropriate spot for them.
oh, I thought I heard something. Seattle. What's your thoughts about the Seattle pick?
Let me pull them up
Yeah,
and
I
see
don't
what
want.
we've got. Ray Zabel, that was a really good pick for them. They needed offensive line in the worst way, and Gray Zabel was some people's number one guard. So to get him at number 18 as the second guard taken in the class, I think is great value. He was awesome in the Senior Bowl practices and one-on-ones. He just like didn't get beat the whole week. So that's a fantastic move for them. To get Nicky Minowari in the second round, I thought was great value. They traded up to make sure they didn't miss out on him. So I don't know if that cost them future picks or what. Elijah Arroyo, the tight end, very athletic tight end. So he could be a real nice weapon for them on offense. And again, Riley Mills, they took in the fifth, who's the defensive tackle out of Notre Dame that got hurt late in the playoffs. Otherwise, he would have likely been a first or second round pick. And they even took Jalen Milroe as a lottery pick style quarterback, see if you can develop him. This is a pretty good class, I think.
Falcons are free agents. Oh, they're the ones that got Kobe Bryant.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Wow.
So, what'd you say for Seattle?
I like this class. I'd be comfortable with an A on this class.
Better than the Rams?
You could probably slot them right behind the Rams.
All right, Buffalo. I feel like Buffalo had a decent draft. Do you think Buffalo
Yeah,
had a decent?
absolutely. There's some real good value here. I mean, there were some questions as to whether Maxwell Hairston would be a first round pick. But as far as ability and athleticism, you can't question it. He was a 4.28 40 guy, and his tape's excellent. So just an amazing athlete. I love the character of Maxwell Hairston, too. If you watched the TV broadcast, he was the guy that congratulated every single first round pick and shook their hand or gave them a hug or dapped them up or whatever on their way out to the stage. That's pretty neat because nobody else did that. People were, shaking hands with somebody that they knew from college, or maybe they played against them once or twice. So maybe one or two guys they'd say hi to on their way to the stage. He congratulated everybody. So that's a big character points in my opinion. Plus, the inside of his jacket, when he opened it up, he had a bunch of pictures of his family on both sides. So real neat thing. I love the character on him. TJ Sanders, their defensive tackle, is going to be an awesome addition for the pass rush for them. Landon Jackson, a real nice edge. They go D-tackle again in the fourth. I think it's good value. And then maybe their best pick, sixth rounder, Dorian Strong. That's right. They got a strong late. But no, realistically, Dorian was expected to be like a third round pick, and they nail him in the sixth. A guy who could be a number two corner for them down the road.
Why did he fall so much? Why did he fall that many rounds?
He wasn't super fast. His tape was very vanilla. He got pass breakups, but he didn't get a lot of interceptions. He was a 4.50, like flat 4.5 40-yard dash. He's like 6 foot, 180 pounds. There was no dominating trait. He didn't have great length. He didn't have great speed. He didn't have great turnovers, but his tape was solid. He was always where he needed to be. He got his tackles. He got some breakups, just not a turnover machine and not like a huge athletic freak. So when it's boring tape, sometimes that's a good thing. It's like an offensive lineman with boring tape. You want him to have boring tape because that means he's not getting beat. And that's the thing with Dorian Strong. He's not a dude that got beat much in college. So I think that was a really good value. I could easily give them an A.
All right. We're going to take them right with an A. Better than Seattle?
I'll take them better than Seattle and LA.
All right. So behind Tennessee?
Sounds good.
All right. So Jacksonville Jaguars. Did they give up too much for Travis Hunter? That's a question for me. Did they
Yeah,
give up too much for
that's
Travis Hunter?
the most important question, right? Because now they don't have a first round pick next year.
Right.
And more than that too. Or didn't they give up like a future second or third or something in that trade too? There was a lot they gave up to move up those 3 spaces.
Yeah.
That being said, Travis Hunter was one of the blue chip prospects, and not everyone had Mason Graham as a blue chip prospect.
Yeah.
So if they can actually play him on both sides of the field like he wants to, then that's an incredible pick. If they can't and they only play him on one side or the other, then that pushes the whole class to like a B.
Yeah.
So I mean, outside of that pick, I'm not really impressed with the rest of their class. But the ability to move up and nail him, I think, was an important one.
So would you say like a B sort of then?
That's
Because you
kind of
didn't.
that's where I lean on this, because I think that it was smart to move up and get him, but I do worry that they gave up too much in the process.
So, um, where would you think? Behind Dallas or like?
Well, put him in front of Dallas just to be a heel to your rivals.
I'll take that. Chicago. I feel like they did what they had to do. They're gonna be sneaky good this year. I feel like with Chicago. Yeah. My dad really liked what they're doing so far this offseason. So, where do you think Chicago will go?
Well, we look at it with Colson Loveland, your Michigan tight end, was their first round pick. An excellent move tight end, right? He can block a little, but he's a really good move tight end. Luther Burden in the second, an offensive tackle in the second, a defensive tackle in the second. How'd they end up with 3 second-round picks? My goodness. Yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty nice class here for them. They had to get some weapons on offense. They had to shore up the offensive line a little bit more, even after picking up a new center and 2 new guards in free agency. They grab a tackle to complement them. It's a good class to me.
All right. Raul comes in. What is up, Raul? How's it going? Pittsburgh drafted the next Big Ben, and Cleveland drafted the next Spurgeon Win and Tua.
Spurgeon Win. Wow, that's going back. I love it, Raul.
All right. Where do you think Chicago should go?
I think this is a pretty healthy draft, and it would be easy to put them in as a high B or a low A.
All right. You think they had a better draft than the Patriots?
I like it better than the Patriots, yeah.
So better than Seattle.
It's the right range. I'll let you decide between the two.
We'll go with an A there. We'll go with an A. All right. We got your Steelers now. Where do you think?
Well, I'm inherently biased on this one. I absolutely loved Derek Harmon in the first round. I thought running back needed to be addressed, but I didn't want it to be in the first round. And Caleb Johnson, I thought was a great pick. I really liked their entire class, minus the Ohio State guy, which doesn't break your heart. And I'm talking about Jack Sawyer, not Will Howard. I thought it was great value to get Will Howard in the 6th round. A lot of people had him as a 3rd or 4th round quarterback. Sawyer is more of an insurance policy, but a lot of these other guys are either going to contribute on special teams early or even starting early. And I do like this as an A class. I won't put it in an S. It's not that good. But there were a lot of them, like Caleb Johnson was top 50 for a lot of people. They get him at 83. Sawyer was top 100 for a lot of people. They get him at 127. Howard is expected to be a 3rd or 4th round quarterback. They get him in the 6th. So some real nice value for what Pittsburgh did in their entire class. And most importantly, get their next generational defensive end opposite Cam Hayward.
All right. So we're going to put them as an A. Behind Chicago or ahead?
I'll let you slot them. I'm too biased to slot them.
Okay. F. I don't know. This is the thing. I don't know where they should go. That's the thing.
Well, then let's put them behind the Bills in front of the Rams, and that'll make me pretty happy.
And the Bills got it. If it was up to me, I would have put them in an S. But all right. But
you just want a team up there.
Yeah. Vic says, just noticed the Steelers picked all Big Ten players besides the last pick.
Yeah, and that was like a small school college I never heard of before. more.
And then Raul says, has Miles,
Oh,
Jussie, Small, Garrett has to be traded again? No.
in 2 years, yeah. When he
Two
doesn't think
years.
40 million is enough anymore, absolutely, he'll ask to be traded again.
Alright, let me just do this one thing real quick. I'm gonna put the Steelers by the Lake link in the chat right now. Let me get to that. Four more draft picks. Four more subscribers to 100 guys. Let's get
Ooh.
them there. Raul, make sure you subscribe to them, man. Great work over there. All right, now we're back at Cincinnati. How do you
Yeah,
feel about Cincinnati? I don't think did they really address the offensive line?
no. I mean, they,
Exactly.
they took a guard in the third and a guard in the fifth. So you would assume the guard in the third would have a chance of being a starter. The one in the fifth is probably a depth guy. But you might even argue the offensive tackle was a bigger issue for them than guard. They did need to address offensive line, so I'll give them credit for at least throwing a couple guys against the wall there. But when your number one prospect is Shamar Stewart, who just through the pre-draft process really gave me some really heebie-jeebies on how he handled it. You know, he played at 285. He cut the 282 for the Senior Bowl. He cut the 267 for the combine, and then said if somebody wants him to go back to his natural college playing weight, he refuses to do it because he wants to play edge. He had 4.5 career sacks at college, 4.5 in his entire career. And he goes number 17 overall to the Bengals. Now the tools are there. He's got the length. He's got the explosiveness. His combine measurables were incredible, but he doesn't have the production. And that's what the entire draft class is hinging on, is him being a generational type, edge rusher. So it's tough for me to get him higher than a C because the rest of the class did not really impress me much. In their number one pick that they're hinging on is an edge rusher with 4.5 career sacks.
Right. So ahead of the Panthers?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fair spot.
Ahead of the Buccaneers or behind?
I would let's go in front of the Buccaneers, but behind the Broncos.
That's fair. That's fair. And then Raul goes 2 years. I'd say by week 3.
If they're 0-3 after the third week, you might be on to something, Raul. I wouldn't be surprised.
Next up, we got Kansas City. Kansas City, who I still don't understand why they would help the Eagles out. Like they basically did, they helped the Eagles out. They did gain what? Another draft pick? But
yeah, nothing serious in the trade.
no.
But this is another draft class where somebody addressed their needs and did so at a high level.
Yep.
So first round pick, close your ears, Ohio State, Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle. Again, this was a guy with an injury concern.
It's a torture year for me.
He had an injury concern coming out. Otherwise, he would have probably been the number one offensive tackle in this class. So they have the luxury of being able to sit him and wait for him to be 100% healthy, which makes that an incredible value. Omar Norman Lott, a really good quality defensive tackle in the second round, a nice edge rusher in the third, starter caliber corner in the third. This is a real nice class, and I think our first legitimate S opportunity since we had earlier in the draft with the Ravens. I think Kansas City should be considered for an S draft class here.
For helping out the Eagles, giving us the Super Bowl, I'm being nice. There you go. There you go. All right. Arizona Cardinals. How do you think they did?
All right, so we're looking at Walter Nolan, who was the number 2 defensive tackle taken in this class, I believe. I think he went in front of Kenneth Grant. Will Johnson in the second was great value. Most had him as a first round corner. In fact, a lot of them had him as the number 2 corner in this class. So to get him in the second, in the middle of the second, is real nice value. And then the rest of the class, Jordan Birch an edge, Cody Simon a linebacker, Denzel Burke again, Ohio State corner. The rest of the class is kind of for me, but I think it's at least a B with those first 2 picks being really good.
Right. So what grade would you give the Cardinals then?
I think a B is fair to them.
Ahead of the Vikings?
Let's throw them in front of the Jets.
Oh, big jump. Yeah, Arku said the Vikings only had 5 picks.
Yeah.
That's fair. He's a Cowboys fan, so that's fair. That's fair. Hey, I would have gave him below and D. That's what I would have done. All right. The Colts. The Indianapolis Colts. Where do you think they should go?
Let's take a peek at the class here. Tyler Warren. Everybody was mocking Tyler Warren to them in the first round. They get him. I love the pick, not just because of what's on my chest right now. Very versatile tight end who can do it all, including throw the football, which is kind of a rare thing. Second round, you're not going to want to hear it. Edge rusher from Ohio State. Third round, Minnesota corner. Offensive tackle in the fourth. DJ Giddens, the running back, in the fifth. Riley Leonard, the QB from Notre Dame, in the sixth. It's not a bad class. I think you could go in a probably a B to C category, probably like a lower B.
Lower B. So that's ahead of the Vikings again?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Falcons?
Yeah, but I don't know that I liked it better than the Niners, though.
All right. And then Raul comes in. Browns called my grandson about being on the practice squad, but they couldn't pay him because of the Watson and Garrett contracts. Damn. Hey, my buddy who's a Browns fan, I thought he would pop in. I guess not. He's probably busy with his kid. But yeah, the Saints, the last one.
Last one. Let's look at New Orleans here. I got to pull them up.
No one had a D or below. Wow.
It's tough, It's tough to give somebody a D. I feel like you really got to butcher the whole draft process. I was close to giving the Browns a D, I'll be honest with you.
Hey, technically, I did give the Cowboys that, but I moved them up.
All right, so Kelvin Banks, the offensive tackle, was their first round pick. Definitely a needed piece there. They took quarterback Tyler Shock in the second round. Vernon Broughton, a D tackle, in the third, who I thought was going to go much later than that. Jonas Sanker, a safety. Danny Stutzman, linebacker. Not a class that really jumps out at me, but I do like the first two picks. So probably in that B to C range again is something I'd be comfortable with here.
Right, ahead of the Vikings? Or behind the Vikings, ahead of the Browns, you think?
I think, yeah, let's go behind the Vikings, but still in the B category.
All right, so there you go. This is the tier list of the NFL draft. Do you see anything we should move around? You think like maybe a nitpick, like maybe, I don't know, the Packers behind the Commanders or something like that?
Nothing really jumps out at me. What about you?
Maybe this. But other than that, no. Nah. So, yeah. All right, guys. So I'm gonna save this. This will be on social media. Just download. There we go. Got it. Let me stop sharing the screen. And yeah, guys, that was fun. We're gonna do this after every week in the NFL draft. So we're gonna keep one from start one from the beginning of the season to the end and see where we end up. So that would be cool. But let the people know where they can find you, man.
Steelers by the Lake on YouTube, on Twitter, on TikTok, Apple Podcast, anywhere you find podcasts, you'll find us.
Yeah. You're still doing good on Spotify, right?
Yeah, still on Spotify too. Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah, I had to stop that for Hardcore Sports because we were just like not going anywhere. I'm like, I'm tired. That's it. Sanders played against Kent State talent.
Yeah, it's a very fair assessment.
Dang. Okay.
And win 13-12 while doing it.
Wait, what?
I mean, we're talking about Shador, right?
Yeah, 13-12. What?
13-12, I believe, was his career record at Colorado.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and got his jersey
Wow.
retired for it.
All right. All right, guys, we're gonna head on out. I got something to do. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. I will catch you guys later for Cavs and Pacers at 6 o'clock. Playoff basketball. I love every second of it. All right. See you guys. Have a good one.
Peace.